Okay, welcome to another one of Mr. Mack-Poole's lessons. And today we're looking at Sir Francis Drake. Round, round, Drakey, round, round the world with me. So we're going to evaluate the success of Drake's mission. Now, to begin with, I'd just like to state that I don't want to be too Anglo-centric. I don't want to be too England-focused. I want to teach you a bit of wider history here. Sir Francis Drake wasn't the first man to circumnavigate the world, and that means to travel all the way around the world from east to west. Now, it's not possible to do that from north to south because of the ice caps, but the first man to do this is called Ferdinand Magellan. Now, he was Portuguese, and he managed it about 50 years before. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool that he did that so much before. And in fact, when Sir Francis Drake circumnavigates the world, he does it with the help of a Portuguese trader who knows these naval routes, and he actually takes a Magellan Strait. So I'm not saying what Sir Francis Drake did wasn't amazing. It was amazing, but he did build on someone's previous experience, which was the intelligent thing to do. So Sir Francis Drake was a farmer. He was also a slave owner, which obviously isn't great, but we have to admit that's part of who he was and how he made his wealth. And in 1568, his ship was attacked by the Spanish, and Drake had to swim for his life. He almost died. Now, from a historian's perspective, if someone tried to kill you and you almost died, you might hate those people in the future. And he certainly had a lot of anger for the Spanish, and he pretty much made his whole life one big attempt to attack the Spanish, and he certainly did that a lot. So what were the causes of his circumnavigation? Well, at the time, you think he'd wanted to mimic Spanish success. So as you can see up here, this is the Spanish Empire. You can see it stretches far and wide. And also you've got the Portuguese Empire there as well. So, but what I'm trying to say is that the Spanish Empire was colossal and it had a lot of gold wealth. Spain was a very wealthy nation. You've also got the obvious Protestant and Catholic tension simmering away. We've got a revenge motive for Sir Francis Drake, and obviously a wealth motive. You know, traveling around the world and going to these places where there's lots of gold would make him very rich. So we all know that it took Drake 3 years to travel all around the world. He started from London, went around the Horn of Africa. He importantly met a Portuguese trader, took his ship here, went through the Drake Passage, renamed his ship the Golden Hind, then instigates a huge robbing spree on these wealthy Spanish possessions which had a lot of silver and gold. Remember, he had so much silver on his ship, he was able to use it for ballast. That means he was able to shoot the silver out of other ships. That's how much silver he had. He had enough that he could use it to fire it upon other people. He tried to take a route across North America, but there was no route there. He then used some help from some local tribes, went through to Polynesia here, where there's many islands, got some spices, got stuck on a reef. Luckily, he had to throw quite a lot of his wealth off, but not all of it. Then came back round, and that took him 3 years. Okay, so it is an amazing voyage. Now we have to think about the consequences of this. Okay, worsening relations with Spain. King Philip II here was not pleased that Elizabeth I was not only encouraging this to happen, but rewarding. She rewarded Sir Francis Drake. Now, when Sir Francis Drake arrived back in England, he was knighted on his ship by a French noble who was visiting Elizabeth at the time, because Elizabeth was flirting with the idea of marrying a Frenchman. She never did, of course, but she did that. She used her single status to do that so she could create better relations with certain countries to keep enemy countries on the back foot. So she was cozying up to France to keep Spain on the back foot. She was trying to put a wedge between France and Spain. So that's a very interesting fact that Sir Francis Drake was knighted by a Frenchman on his ship. So Elizabeth could argue, well, I didn't knight him, and he wasn't knighted on English soil. Very intelligent, okay? But anyway, worsening relations with Spain. Relations with Spain are getting worse progressively throughout the 1570s into the 1580s. We know in the 1580s that things really hot up between the Spanish and the English, especially with what happened in the Dutch Revolt. But I'll talk about that next lesson. Second thing, that Drake's naval skill had increased. He'd navigate his way across the world. This would come in very handy for the Spanish Armada in 1588. And he was a major figure in that. Another consequence was that now England had an esteemed naval force. You know, England had a bunch of sailors who'd gone all around the world. Now, this was a massive accomplishment, which meant she was a genuine power. You can only accomplish things if you're a great power, if you've got the resources to send those ships and men across the world. And that is it for today's lesson. So, yeah, use this information to answer why Drake's circumnavigation was made such a significant impact. Thank you, and I will stop recording now and have a very lovely day. Right.